Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the most powerful, low-profile, dual-slot gaming GPU on the market right now. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, it's no secret that I love my mini PCs. I've got basically all of the low-profile cards that have hit the market in the last few years, like the GTX 1050, 1650, I've got the A2000, the RX 6400, and even some older stuff like a GTX 750. But today we're going to be taking a look at Gigabyte's brand new low-profile RTX 4060. This is definitely going to be a game changer for a lot of those out there who want to build a powerful small form factor PC. But before we get into it, I do want to mention that this video is brought to you by URCD Keys. Now, I've actually been using this site for a long time now. They do offer PC games from Steam, Uplay, Ubisoft. They even offer Microsoft applications like Office. But the main reason that I use the site is for their Windows 10 Pro OEM keys. These are activation keys that you can pick up really cheap. And right now at checkout, if you use code ETA, you can get 30% off. And this 30% discount will be going on until the end of August. So with this discount, you can pick one of these Windows 10 Pro activation keys up for $15.58. And don't forget, you can use PayPal to check out on their website. I just did this build here. I need to activate Windows. I'm going to head over to my updates and security. We're going to go to activation. As you can see, I've got Windows 10 Pro, but it's not activated. So I'm going to change product key. I'm going to paste it in here, choose next, choose activate, and Windows is now activated. We're ready to go. My warning is totally gone, and basically that's it. They'll email your code once your payment is processed, and that's basically it. If you're interested in picking up cheap Windows 10 keys for your new PC builds, I'll leave a link in the description. When Gigabyte initially announced that they were going to be releasing a low-profile RTX 4060, I knew I had to get my hands on it for a few small form factor builds, and as you can see, this does have a triple fan design. We also get 8 gigabytes of VRAM with this unit, and it's not a dumbed down RTX 4060. I mean, we can get full power out of this. It's got a maximum TDP of 115 watts, just like the others on the market. And of course, it is a dual slot low profile card, but it is coming in a tad longer than the GTX 1650s right now that we've seen on the market, more specifically this MSI low profile version. And yes, it does come with a low profile bracket in the box, very easy to install. And in the next few days, if you keep an eye on the channel, I will have a full build coming up with the RTX 4060 in a super small form factor unit. We're going to go with a pretty powerful CPU paired up with this to see what we can do. But in this testing video, I'm going to be leaving the full-size bracket on because this is going to go in a pretty powerful machine. I don't want any kind of CPU or memory bottleneck with this. I want to see exactly what we can do with this RTX 4060. But if you're really interested in a small form factor build with this, definitely keep an eye on the channel. It's coming very soon. So there is one thing that we need with this RTX 4060 low profile that these other low profile cards don't require, and that's an 8-pin power connector because this does have a maximum TDP of 115 watts, and your PCIe slot usually maxes out at around 75. So even though it is a low profile card, you're still going to need that 8-pin power connector to get this thing up and running. Hopefully, next generation, we will see one of these putting out similar or better performance that does not require a power connector. But right now with the RTX 4060, needs a little extra juice. This card also supports up to 4 displays. We've got 2 full-size HDMI ports and 2 full-size display ports. So like I mentioned with this testing video, we're going to be putting this inside of one of my full-size rigs. We're not going to have any kind of memory or CPU bottleneck with this RTX 4060. But again, a low-profile build will be coming up. I'm just waiting on some parts, and I was actually really excited about this card, and personally, I wanted to test it out myself anyway. So this rig consists of an Intel i9-13900K cooled by a 360mm InterMax AIO. We've got 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM running at 6400 MHz and a 2TB NVMe SSD. I completely understand that, having this 8-pin power connector on this low profile card might turn a lot of people off, but the card itself only pulls around 115 watts. So depending on the CPU combo you go with, you could get away with 300 watt power supply. And if you're looking to build small form factor, Pico at 300 to 350 watts are relatively available. But with the small form factor build I have coming up, I'm going to be going with an ATX Flex power supply. When it comes to this specific card here, we've got a core clock of 2475 MHz, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 running at a 128-bit bus, 3072 CUDA cores, 24 ray tracing cores. The card size is as follows. Length is 82 millimeters, it's 69 millimeters wide, and 40 millimeters high. We've also got that maximum TDP of 115 watts. Now the first thing I did here was run a few benchmarks just to kind of get a baseline for everything. And the first one we have here is 3D Mark's DirectX Ray Tracing Feature Test. Average frame rate here, 27.65. Now, it's not going to be a ray tracing destroyer, but I mean, we can definitely get a little bit out of the way with this card. Next up, we've got 3D Mark Firestrike. Total score with this setup, 27,551, and our graphics score is sitting right there at 28,760. I also ran Time Spy. Total score with this system, 11,674. Graphics score totaled 10,797. And I also ran the Uni-Engine Heaven benchmark. And with this, we got a total score of 7,101. Minimum FPS dropped down to 56.3, and our maximum was 647. This was at high settings here. So overall, I'm really impressed with these synthetic benchmarks. I mean, I think we're actually seeing some great performance. But now it's time to jump into some real-world gaming, and the first one we have here is Cyberpunk 2077. So right now we're at 1440p high, and with the preset of high, it does turn on DLSS or a little bit of resolution scale. Personally, I still think it looks great like this, and we got an average of 79 FPS. But since we're working with an RTX card with a few ray tracing cores, I figured we'd go ahead and test out some ray tracing. And on the 4060, doing ray tracing with most games, you may have to drop it down to 1080p. So right now we're at 1080p, ray tracing medium, and we got an average of 62 FPS. I mean, it's right there on the edge. Personally, I'd rather just play it at 1440p high or 1080p ultra instead of using ray tracing, but you know, if you love that ray tracing, you gotta have it. It is possible with this card. Of course, CSGO is gonna perform amazingly on this card. 1440p, very high. We got an average of 284 FPS. So locking this down at 120, 144, or even 244 is going to be possible, and it does look great here at those very high settings. Doom Eternal, 1440p, ultra settings, we got an average of 168 FPS. In fact, this will do 4K ultra, and you can get an average of around 110 FPS. And you know, if you just wanted to up the graphics a bit at 1440p, we've also got Nightmare mode. It's going to equal about the same as 4K ultra would at 1440p. I knew this game was going to work out really well on this RTX 4060. And another one that performs absolutely amazingly is Forza Horizon 5. 1440p, ultra setting, 1440p, ultra settings, average of 118 FPS, and this is another one of those games that'll do 4K at ultra. We averaged around 84 FPS 4K ultra on this RTX 4060 with Forza Horizon 5. Spider-Man Miles Morales, very hit or miss game in all of my testing. I'm not sure if it comes down to shader cache or just GPU drivers, but this is one of those games that does work really well on the 4060. 1440p, very high, and with all of the stuff we've seen so far, we haven't been using any kind of resolution scale except for the auto resolution scale in Cyberpunk 2077. So we're working with a native 1440p resolution, 90 FPS on average. Elden Ring is another one that performs really great on this system. Maxed out at 1440p, we can get a locked 60 FPS with this game, even with a ton of particle effects on screen and characters. So yeah, I'd say so far we've been doing a pretty good job at 1440p, but there was one other game I wanted to test here, and that's The Last of Us Part 1. So with this, I did have to drop it down to 1080p because I'm not using any kind of resolution scale. So we're not doing any kind of DLSS or anything like that. High settings. We averaged 72 FPS. Now that's really an outdoor average. Indoors, you can average much higher. But this is one of those games that will require DLSS if you're looking to get a higher resolution than 1080 on the RTX 4060. Personally, I don't mind playing this at 1080. I think it still looks great. So far, really impressed with the Gigabyte low-profile RTX 4060, and from all of my testing, this is actually the most powerful low-profile dual-slot gaming card on the market right now. There are some A-series professional cards from NVIDIA that may outperform this, and you're going to spend around $1,000 at the least to get something to match or exceed the performance of this, when Gigabyte has actually got this listed for $329. And of course, it's still a bit expensive for a low-profile card, but you know, if you're into these small form factor PCs, then you know that going small does cost you a little more. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Really appreciate you watching. This is something that I can definitely recommend if you're looking for a low-profile gaming card that outperforms all the rest right now. And definitely keep an eye on the channel because I've got a small form factor build coming up that will utilize this card. And if you're into these micro PCs, you'll probably enjoy the one I have coming up. So it'd be pretty cool if you could hit that like button or think about hitting the subscribe button so you know exactly when I post the next one. But like always, thanks for watching.